Lieutenant Commander Jack Spencer stood at the viewport of the Earth Defense Fleet flagship, the USS Dauntless, watching as the massive Halaxian ships approached. Their vessels were at least 3 times the size of Earth's largest ships. They gleamed with a strange purple-black metal unknown to human science. Jack adjusted his plain gray uniform and ran a hand through his short brown hair. To anyone looking at him, he appeared to be nothing more than a logistics officer, someone who managed supplies and schedules. No one would guess he had led 4 high-risk operations on the Mars rebellions, or that he could kill in 14 different ways with just his hands. Quite a sight, aren't they? Admiral Kate Donovan stepped up beside him. She was in her 50s with silver-streaked red hair pulled back in a neat bun. Her uniform had more decorations than Jack's, but nothing that screamed warrior to alien eyes. "Yes, ma'am," Jack replied, his voice soft and thoughtful. "Their technology is impressive. Remember your role, Lieutenant Commander. You're just a logistics officer on this trip." Kate's eyes never left the approaching ships. "Of course, Admiral. Just a numbers guy who gets nervous in a fight." The Halaxian Empire had discovered Earth 3 months ago. They controlled over 200 star systems and had been expanding for 1,000 years. Humans were lucky. The Halaxians preferred to add new species to their empire rather than destroy them. But that didn't mean Earth had much choice in the matter. On the main bridge, Major Lisa Winters sat at the communication station. Her long blonde hair was tied back, and her fingers moved quickly over the control panel. To the casual observer, she looked like any other communications specialist. No one would know she spoke 7 languages and had once escaped from a North Korean prison using only a spoon and a piece of wire. "They're hailing us, Admiral," Lisa called out as Kate and Jack entered the bridge. "On screen," Kate ordered, straightening her uniform and standing tall. The screen flickered to life. A Halaxian appeared, tall and thin with 4 arms and skin that looked like polished blue stone. Golden markings covered its upper arms and face, marking it as part of the diplomatic caste. "I am Grand Vizier Zorthak of the glorious Halaxian Empire. You will prepare for our inspection team to board your vessel." Admiral Donovan smiled pleasantly. "Grand Vizier, I am Admiral Kate Donovan of the Earth Defense Fleet. We welcome you to our system and are prepared to discuss terms of friendship between our peoples." The alien's 6 eyes blinked in sequence. "Very well. Our team will arrive in 1 of your hours." The screen went dark. "Well, he seems friendly," Jack said with a small smile. Kate turned to address the bridge crew. "Everyone remember your assignments. We need this to go well. Earth is counting on us." She looked at Jack. "Spencer, make sure the reception area is ready." "Yes, ma'am." Jack moved off, the perfect picture of an efficient but unremarkable officer. The Halaxian delegation arrived exactly 1 hour later. Their shuttle docked with the Dauntless, and 6 aliens stepped aboard. Grand Vizier Zorthak led the group. Behind him were 4 guards with massive frames, heavy armor and skin covered in red battle markings. Unlike the Grand Vizier, these were clearly warriors. Everything about them screamed danger and power. The last alien was smaller, with green markings that showed it was from the scientific caste. Admiral Donovan greeted them personally, with Jack standing quietly behind her holding a data pad. "Welcome aboard the Dauntless, Grand Vizier Zorthak. We're honored by your presence." The Grand Vizier looked around, his eyes taking in everything. "This is your military vessel? Where are your warriors? I see only—" He seemed to search for the word administrators. Kate smiled. "This is a diplomatic mission. Our crew is highly trained in their specific duties." "Strange. In the Empire, warriors and civilian workers are easy to tell apart. Your warriors must be elsewhere on the ship?" "I assure you, our crew is fully capable of defending this vessel if needed," Kate said smoothly. As they walked through the ship, Jack noticed the Halaxian warriors watching the human crew with something like confusion or contempt. The alien stood nearly 7 feet tall and had clearly visible muscles beneath their blue stone-like skin. Compared to them, the humans must have looked weak and soft. In the conference room, Sergeant Craig Martinez was checking the environmental controls. He was a stocky man with a slight punch and a friendly face. He smiled and nodded at the delegation before going back to his work. None of the aliens could know that Martinez had once held off 30 enemy soldiers for 6 hours with just a pistol and 3 grenades. The scientific alien approached Jack while the Grand Vizier spoke with Admiral Donovan. "You there. What is your function?" "I'm Lieutenant Commander Spencer, Logistics Officer," Jack answered with a polite smile. "I manage supply chains, resource allocation, and operational scheduling." The alien seemed puzzled. "You wear the same basic uniform as your Admiral. In our empire, your rank would be marked by physical modifications and warrior symbols." Jack shrugged. "We have these." He pointed to the rank insignia on his shoulder. "And different colors for different divisions. But yes, the uniforms are similar." "Fascinating," the alien said. "Your species is most unusual." During the formal dinner that evening, Jack sat quietly near the end of the table, occasionally making notes on his datapad. The Grand Vizier was seated next to Admiral Donovan, with his warrior standing guard behind him. "Tell me, Admiral," Zorthak said, "how does Earth select its warriors? In the Empire, certain genetic lines are bred specifically for battle. They begin training at birth and receive physical enhancements as they mature." Kate took a sip of water before answering. "On Earth, military service is voluntary. Anyone who meets our standards can join. They receive training appropriate to their role." The Grand Vizier's eyes blinked rapidly. "Anyone? Even your weakest citizens could become warriors? This seems inefficient." "We find it works quite well for us," Kate replied. "Humanity has a long history of adapting to challenges." From his position, Jack watched Lisa Winters, who was acting as translator for one of the Halaxian scientists. She laughed at something the alien said, looking completely at ease. Only Jack noticed how her eyes constantly scanned the room, noting positions, exits, and potential threats. As the night went on, the Grand Vizier became more interested in Jack, asking him detailed questions about Earth's supply systems and resource management. Jack provided thorough but carefully limited information, playing his role perfectly. "You seem very intelligent for a simple logistics officer," Zorthak commented. Jack smiled modestly. "Thank you, Grand Vizier. I just do my job." After the Halaxians returned to their ship, Admiral Donovan called a private meeting with her key staff. "Initial impressions?" she asked. Lisa spoke first. "They're confused by us. They can't figure out who the warriors are because they're looking for obvious physical differences." Jack nodded. "They keep underestimating us. The Grand Vizier thinks I'm just a bookkeeper." Kate smiled. "Good. Let's keep it that way. Tomorrow, we begin actual negotiations. If all goes well, Earth joins the Empire as a protected planet with some autonomy. If not..." She didn't need to finish the sentence. "Don't worry, Admiral," Craig Martinez said with an easy grin. "If things go bad, they'll find out exactly what Earth's deadliest soldiers look like." None of them knew how soon that would be. The second day of negotiations started well. Admiral Kate Donovan led her team into the grand meeting hall aboard the Halaxian flagship. The room was huge, with ceilings that stretched up at least 30 feet. The walls glowed with a soft purple. Light and strange symbols were carved into the metal floors. Jack Spencer followed behind Kate, carrying several datapads. He looked nervous and out of place among the imposing aliens. Grand Vizier Zorthak greeted them with a formal bow. "Admiral Donovan, I trust you rested well. Today we will discuss the terms of Earth's protection within our glorious empire." "We look forward to productive talks," Kate replied with a diplomatic smile. Jack noticed a new Halaxian in the room. This one was taller than Zorthak, with deeper blue skin and more elaborate red markings covering his forearms. His eyes were cold as they scanned the human delegation. "This is Commander Vexel," Zorthak introduced him. "He leads our military forces in this sector and wished to observe today's meeting." Kate nodded politely to the commander, but Jack saw the barely hidden disdain in the alien's eyes. Vexel clearly didn't think much of humans. The negotiations proceeded for several hours. The humans were offered protection in exchange for resources and technology sharing. It wasn't a bad deal. But Kate pushed for better terms, showing a surprising knowledge of interstellar law that seemed to impress Zorthak. During a break, Jack stepped into a quiet corner to check some figures on his datapad. He was actually reviewing security protocols, but to anyone watching, he appeared to be fretting over supply calculations. Commander Vexel approached him. "You, logistics human, tell me, why does your kind not mark its warriors? How do you know who to follow?" "In battle?" Jack looked up, blinking as if startled. "Oh, well, sir, we have uniforms and rank insignia." He pointed to his shoulder. "But in battle, leadership is based on the mission parameters and chain of command." "Strange system," Vexel growled. "In the Empire, warriors are bred for war. We are larger, stronger, and marked with the symbols of battle. Your kind all looks the same, soft and weak." Jack gave a nervous laugh. "Well, I'm certainly not a warrior. I just make sure supplies get where they need to go." Vexel made a dismissive sound and walked away. Jack's eyes hardened for just a moment before he returned to his datapad. That evening, the Halaxians hosted a formal dinner for the Earth delegation. The grand dining hall was decorated with battle trophies from 100 conquered worlds. Sergeant Craig Martinez whistled low as they entered. "Nice place," he muttered to Lisa Winters. "Think they're compensating for something?" Lisa hid a smile and subtly checked the small device in her pocket. It was scanning for poisons and weapons, standard procedure for diplomatic missions. The dinner began with speeches. Grand Vizier Zorthak spoke of the glorious future Earth would have under Imperial protection. Admiral Donovan spoke of friendship between their peoples. The food came next, strange alien dishes that the humans politely sampled. Jack was seated near the end of the table beside one of the Halaxian scientists. He maintained light conversation while keeping watch on Commander Vexel, who kept whispering to his warriors. Something felt wrong. Halfway through the main course, Jack noticed 4 new Halaxian warriors enter the room. They positioned themselves near the exits. He caught Lisa's eye across the table and saw that she had noticed too. She tapped 2 fingers against her glass, their signal for potential trouble. Jack slowly reached under the table and pressed a small button on his belt. It would alert all Earth personnel to be ready. To anyone watching, he was just shifting in his seat. When it happened fast. Commander Vexel stood up and slammed all 4 of his hands on the table. "Enough of this farce," he shouted. "The High Command has ordered us to study these humans properly. Take them." The Halaxian warriors moved in, weapons drawn. They were strange-looking guns that glowed with blue energy. Grand Vizier Zorthak jumped up in shock. "Commander, what is the meaning of this? These are our guests." "They are specimens, now," Vexel snarled. "The Empire needs to understand their physiology before allowing them into our realm." Jack caught Admiral Donovan's eye. She gave a slight nod. What happened next stunned the Halaxians. The seemingly soft, nervous humans transformed before their eyes. Admiral Kate Donovan flipped the heavy stone table with surprising strength, creating a barrier between her people and the Halaxian weapons. Jack Spencer, the quiet logistics officer, moved with blinding speed. He grabbed a decorative metal rod from the wall and in one fluid motion threw it like a spear. It struck the nearest Halaxian warrior in the shoulder joint, causing him to drop his weapon. "Defensive Formation 3! Jack called out, his voice now commanding and powerful. Lisa Winters pulled a small device from her pocket and tossed it to the center of the room. It exploded in a burst of blinding light. While the Halaxians were disoriented, she took down 2 warriors with precise strikes to vulnerable points on their bodies that she had been carefully observing for 2 days. Sergeant Craig Martinez, who had been fixing environmental systems just hours earlier, pulled a small tool from his boot. With a flick of his wrist, it extended into a baton. He moved with practiced efficiency, striking a Halaxian warrior in precisely the right spot to disable him without killing. The most shocking transformation was in the other humans, the ones who seemed like nothing more than assistants and tech specialists. Every single member of the Earth delegation moved with military precision. They worked together flawlessly, covering each other as they neutralized the threat. Jack leapt over the overturned table and headed straight for Commander Vexel. The Halaxian was much larger and had twice as many arms, but Jack moved like water around him. He dodged blows and struck with precision at nerve clusters that the humans had been secretly studying. Within 3 minutes, all the Halaxian warriors were disabled. Not one was killed. The Earth delegation stood calmly, now arranged in a defensive formation around Admiral Donovan. Grand Vizier Zorthak stared in shock. What are you? Admiral Donovan straightened her slightly rumpled uniform. We are exactly what we said we are. Representatives of Earth. Commander Vexel's actions violated our diplomatic agreement and threatened the safety of my people. We defended ourselves with appropriate force. But you are not warriors, Zorthak said, his 6 eyes blinking rapidly in confusion. You bear no warrior markings, no battle enhancements. On Earth, Jack explained, his voice now strong and confident. We don't separate our people into castes. Any human can be trained as a soldier if needed. Every member of my delegation is a fully qualified combat operative, Admiral Donovan added, as well as being experts in their official roles. Vexel groaned from where Jack had left him on the floor. Impossible. The soft one. The numbers keeper. He moved like an elite warrior. Jack smiled slightly. I am a logistics officer. I'm also a Special Forces commander with 15 years of combat experience. The Grand Vizier looked at the fallen warriors, then back at the calm, organized humans. For the first time, fear showed in his alien eyes. The Empire has much to reconsider about humans, he said quietly. Yes, Admiral Donovan agreed. I think you do. Grand Vizier Zorthak paced the length of the research laboratory aboard the Imperial flagship. His 4 arms were clasped behind his back, and his 6 eyes blinked in an irregular pattern, a sign of extreme distress in Halaxians. Before him, large screens displayed footage of the dinner incident from multiple angles. Play it again, he ordered. Dr. Zinthar, the Empire's leading xenobiologist, sighed but complied. The footage began again, showing the human called Jack Spencer transforming from a nervous administrator into a deadly fighter within seconds. I have watched this recording 47 times, Grand Vizier, Dr. Zinthar said. Her green science cast markings glowed faintly in the dim light of the lab. The results remain the same. These humans show no physical differences between their warrior and non-warrior classes. It defies everything we know about civilized species, Zorthak muttered. Every advanced race in the Empire has specialized castes. Workers look like workers. Scientists look like scientists. Warriors look like warriors. It is the natural order. On another screen, the footage showed Lisa Winters taking down 2 Halaxian warriors with precise strikes. Only yesterday she had been laughing and chatting with the science team, seemingly nothing more than a communications specialist. Could they be hiding physical enhancements? Zorthak asked. Dr. Zinthar shook her head. Our scans show no evidence of cybernetic implants or genetic modifications beyond what appears to be their natural state. Their strength is not remarkable by our standards. They simply know exactly where and how to strike. In a secure room elsewhere on the ship, Commander Vexel sat in disgrace. His warrior markings had been partially covered as punishment for his unauthorized attack on the human delegation. 2 guards stood watch over him. They tricked us, Vexel growled. They hid their warriors among their diplomats. No, Admiral Kate Donovan said as she entered the room. We didn't hide anything. You simply made assumptions about us. The Admiral had been granted permission to speak with the disgraced commander. Behind her came Jack Spencer, now openly wearing a small insignia that marked him as Special Forces. You, Vexel hissed at Jack. You pretended to be weak. Jack shook his head. I never pretended anything. I am a logistics officer. I manage supply chains and resource allocation. I'm also trained in combat, as are most people in our fleet. Vexel looked confused. But why would a warrior do the work of a lower caste? On Earth, we don't have castes, Admiral Donovan explained. People choose their roles based on their abilities and interests. Many of us have multiple skills. This concept seemed to deeply disturb the Halaxian commander. Meanwhile, in the diplomatic quarters assigned to the Earth delegation, Chief Petty Officer Alicia Garcia was preparing lunch. She hummed softly as she chopped vegetables and seasoned a protein dish. To anyone watching, she appeared to be nothing more than a chef. No one would guess that before joining the fleet, she had been one of Earth's top intelligence agents. As she worked, Alicia was compiling a detailed psychological profile of the Halaxian leadership. Every interaction, every meal preference, every reaction was carefully noted and analyzed. Her cooking role gave her unique access to the aliens in an informal setting. When a Halaxian science assistant entered the kitchen area, Alicia smiled warmly. "Hello, would you like to try this? It's a traditional Earth dish." The assistant cautiously accepted the offered sample. "It is pleasant. You are the food preparer?" "Chef, yes," Alicia nodded. "But I also have training in cultural studies and xenopsychology. I find cooking is a wonderful way to learn about different species." The assistant blinked rapidly. "You have multiple functions? Are all humans so versatile?" "Most of us have several skills," Alicia explained. "It makes life more interesting." Later that day, Grand Vizier Zorthak called an emergency meeting with the Earth delegation. The large conference room felt tense. Extra Halaxian guards lined the walls, though they kept a respectful distance from the humans. "Our Emperor has reviewed the incident," Zorthak announced. "He is concerned about what this reveals about human nature." Admiral Donovan met his gaze steadily. "We regret the misunderstanding, but we acted only in self-defense." "That is precisely what concerns us," Zorthak replied. "The Empire has encountered over 300 sentient species. In every case, there are clear distinctions between civilian and military castes. Yet you humans," he gestured at the Earth delegation, "you all have the capacity for violence hidden beneath a peaceful exterior." Jack Spencer stepped forward. "Not hidden, Grand Vizier. We simply don't define ourselves solely by our combat abilities. Throughout Earth's history, ordinary people have taken up arms when needed, then returned to their normal lives." "You mean any human could potentially be a warrior?" The concept clearly disturbed the Grand Vizier. "To some degree, yes," Admiral Donovan confirmed, "though obviously some have more training than others." Dr. Zinthar, who had joined the meeting, pulled up images on a large display. "We have been studying your planet's history. You have concepts we find deeply troubling. Civilian soldiers, guerrilla warfare, resistance fighters. Your most effective military forces often look no different from non-combatants." The images showed historical photos of ordinary-looking people who had been resistance fighters during Earth's wars. "It is a natural adaptation," Jack explained. "When faced with stronger opponents, humans learn to blend in, to fight without obvious military structures." Zorthak turned to Admiral Donovan. "Do you understand what this means for the Empire? We cannot tell which of your people are dangerous and which are not. All of us can be dangerous if threatened," Kate said simply. "But we prefer peace." The Grand Vizier's eyes blinked in their disturbed pattern again. "The Empire must reconsider how we approach integration with Earth. Our Emperor requests a formal demonstration of your military capabilities." "What kind of demonstration?" Jack asked cautiously. "A controlled exercise between your forces and our elite warriors. The Emperor wishes to understand what he is dealing with." Admiral Donovan considered this. "We are willing to participate, provided it's truly a training exercise with safety protocols in place." Zorthak nodded. "Of course. But the Emperor has one condition. We wish to face your actual military specialists, not diplomats with combat training." Jack and Kate exchanged glances. "That's just it, Grand Vizier," Jack said. "We are your actual military specialists. I wasn't pretending to be a logistics officer, I am one, but I'm also special forces. Most of us serve multiple functions." "Impossible," Zorthak insisted. "No species can excel in both peace and war functions." Alicia Garcia, who had been quietly taking notes at the back of the room, spoke up. "Perhaps that's why you find us so confusing, Grand Vizier. Humans don't see a division between being civilized and being able to fight. Our history taught us that the most ordinary-looking person might need to become a soldier at any moment. The Grand Vizier stared at her. And you are? Chief Petty Officer Alicia Garcia. I'm the Cultural Liaison Officer for this mission. She didn't mention her intelligence background or combat training. And are you also one of these hidden warriors? Zorthak asked. Alicia smiled politely. I'm just a chef who's good at understanding people, sir. But like most fleet personnel, I've had basic defense training. The Grand Vizier looked disturbed by this answer. He turned back to Admiral Donovan. The exercise will be in 2 days. The Emperor himself will observe. After the Halaxians left, Jack turned to Kate. They still don't get it, do they? No, the Admiral said. And that's what scares them most. 2 days later, a small fleet of Earthships arrived at the meeting point. The USS Dauntless was joined by 3 smaller vessels. The Halaxians had prepared a large space station for the military exercise. It floated in the emptiness between stars, far from any planets or civilian traffic. Admiral Kate Donovan stood in the docking bay as a new group of Earth personnel came aboard. At their head was General Frank Rogers, a man of average height with gray hair and kind eyes. He wore a simple uniform with minimal decorations. Nothing about him suggested he was one of Earth's top military commanders. Admiral, he said with a warm smile, shaking her hand. Good to see you. Welcome aboard, General, Kate replied. I wish the circumstances were better. General Rogers looked around at the massive Halaxian ships visible through the viewports. So these are our new friends? Jack briefed me on the situation. They seem confused by us. That's putting it mildly, Kate said as they walked toward the bridge. They can't understand why we don't look like warriors. They keep expecting us to reveal our real soldiers, huge, muscle-bound superfighters with special markings or something. Rogers laughed. Well, I must be a real disappointment then. On the bridge, Jack Spencer was reviewing the plans for the exercise. He looked up as Kate and Frank entered. General, good to see you, sir. Spencer, Rogers nodded. Your logistics work got us here right on schedule. Staff Sergeant Nicole Peterson looked up from her console. She had been quietly taking notes during meetings for days, saying very little. With her glasses and neat brown hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, she looked like an administrative assistant. No one would guess she was one of Earth's best snipers, with over 100 confirmed hits in the Mars conflicts. General Rogers, she said, standing to attention. The Halaxians are expecting us in 1 hour. They've prepared what they call an assessment arena. Thank you, Sergeant, Rogers said. What's your read on their expectations? Nicole adjusted her glasses. They're expecting a show, sir. They think we've been hiding our real capabilities. They're hoping to see super soldiers, advanced weapons, maybe even battle mechs. They've arranged for their Emperor to watch. Well, Rogers said with a small smile, let's not keep them waiting. The Earth delegation arrived at the space station exactly on time. They were met by Grand Vizier Zorthak and a new Halaxian, Captain Dracor of the Imperial Guard. Dracor was impressive even by Halaxian standards. He stood nearly 8 feet tall, with deep red battle markings covering his blue, stone-like skin. His forearms rippled with muscles and various weapons hung from his belt. Welcome, Zorthak said. Emperor Calthax awaits in the observation chamber. These exercises will help us understand your true capabilities. As they walked through the station, Dracor eyed the humans with obvious doubt. These are your warriors? He asked, his deep voice rumbling. They look no different from the others. General Rogers smiled pleasantly. We're just soldiers doing our job, Captain. Where are your battle enhancements? Your warrior markings? Dracor demanded. We don't need them, Rogers replied simply. The observation chamber was a large room with one wall made entirely of transparent material. Beyond it was an enormous training arena, at least the size of 4 football fields. Various obstacles, barriers, and structures were scattered throughout it. At the center of the chamber sat Emperor Calthax on a floating throne. He was larger than the other Halaxians, with skin that had a purple tint. Gold and red markings covered his body, and a complex metal headpiece sat atop his elongated head. All the Halaxians in the room bowed low. The humans gave respectful nods. So, the Emperor's voice was surprisingly soft. These are the humans who defeated my elite warriors without special enhancements or visible battle traits. Admiral Donovan stepped forward. Your Majesty, there was a misunderstanding. We defended ourselves when attacked, but we wish for peaceful relations with the Empire. The Emperor's 6 eyes studied each human carefully. Perhaps. But first I must understand what I am dealing with. Your General Rogers will lead your team in exercises against my Imperial Guard. Captain Dracor smiled, showing sharp teeth. We are eager to test their skills properly. The exercise will have 3 parts, Zorthak explained. First, a test of marksmanship. Then tactical problem solving. Finally, direct combat simulation with safety protocols in place. General Rogers nodded. We accept these terms. The first test began shortly after. The marksmanship range had targets at various distances. Captain Dracor went first, demonstrating impressive skill with a Halaxian energy weapon. Every shot hit, near the center of each target. Your turn, Dracor said, offering the weapon to Rogers. Thank you, but we brought our own equipment, the general replied. He turned to Nicole Peterson. Sergeant, you're up. The quiet woman who had been taking notes stepped forward. She removed her glasses and pulled a small case from her pocket. It unfolded into a compact rifle that looked almost too simple compared to the Halaxian technology. That primitive device is your weapon? Dracor laughed. Nicole didn't respond. She simply lifted the rifle, took a breath, and fired. The first target, center hit. Second target, center hit. Third, fourth, fifth. All perfect. She fired so quickly and smoothly that the Halaxians fell silent in shock. For the final target, set at an extreme distance, Nicole adjusted something on her rifle, took a slow breath, and fired. The shot not only hit the center but passed through, the exact spot where her previous shot had hit, enlarging the hole slightly. Impossible, Dracor whispered. The Emperor leaned forward on his throne. This female is your weapons specialist? Actually, Nicole said, collapsing her rifle back into its compact form. I'm primarily an intelligence analyst. Shooting is my secondary skill. The second test involved a complex tactical scenario. The Halaxians presented a battlefield simulation with multiple objectives and limited resources. Captain Dracor and his team created a straightforward plan focusing on overwhelming force directed at the main objective. When it was the humans' turn, Jack Spencer took the lead. His approach confused the Halaxians at first. Instead of concentrating forces, he split the team into small, flexible units. He assigned unexpected roles to team members. The communications expert became a forward scout. The medic took a key defensive position. This is not proper military structure, Dracor objected. It's adaptive, Jack explained. Each person takes the role best suited to the immediate need, not just their primary specialty. The Emperor watched with growing interest. They function like a completely different type of organism than we do, he remarked to Zorthak. The final test was direct combat. Captain Dracor and 5 of his warriors faced General Rogers and 5 humans in a simulated urban environment. The weapons were set to training mode. They would mark a hit without causing real damage. The Halaxians expected the humans to take defensive positions. Instead, the Earth team seemed to vanish into the environment. They used strange, unpredictable movements. They communicated with hand signals the Halaxians couldn't interpret. Nicole Peterson found high ground and provided covering fire. Jack Spencer led a flanking maneuver. Within minutes, 3 Halaxian warriors were marked as eliminated, while all humans remained active. Captain Dracor, furious now, led a direct assault on what he thought was the human position. But they had already moved, leaving behind a small device that marked him as hit when he passed. When the exercise ended, only Dracor and 1 other Halaxian remained alive, while all 6 humans were unharmed. Emperor Calthax stood from his throne as the teams returned to the observation chamber. Impressive, he said, but also disturbing. Your people fight like like nothing we have encountered in 3,000 years of imperial history. General Rogers bowed slightly. We have our own ways, Your Majesty. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. Yes, ways that make you potentially dangerous. Ways that make it impossible to distinguish your warriors from your civilians. He turned to Grand Vizier Zorthak. This cannot stand. Earth must conform to imperial standards. What do you mean? Admiral Donovan asked sharply. If Earth wishes to join the Empire, the Emperor stated, you must create a proper warrior caste, with distinctive physical traits, enhancements, and markings. Your military must be clearly separate from your civilian population. That goes against everything human society stands for, Jack said. Then perhaps Earth is not ready for the Empire, the Emperor replied coldly. You have one day to consider my ultimatum. Either conform to our standards or face isolation. As the Earth delegation returned to their ship, General Rogers looked troubled. He fears us, Jack said quietly. Yes, the general agreed. Not because we're stronger or more advanced, but because we're unpredictable. In their world, warriors look like warriors. In our world, anyone could be a soldier, Kate finished for him. And that terrifies them more than any weapon could. The Earth delegation gathered in the conference room of the USS Dauntless. Admiral Kate Donovan sat at the head of the table, her face serious as she looked at her team. General Frank Rogers stood by the view screen, showing data from their military. Exercise with the Halaxians. Jack Spencer was reviewing options on his datapad, now openly working as both logistics expert and tactical advisor. We have 20 hours to respond to the Emperor's ultimatum, Kate said. Either we create a separate warrior caste with physical markings, or Earth faces isolation from the Empire. We can't accept those terms, Jack said firmly. It goes against everything we believe in. Earth spent centuries moving away from rigid class systems. Lieutenant Betty Chen raised her hand. She had been introduced to the Halaxians as their cultural liaison officer. What they didn't know was that she was also one of Earth's leading specialists in psychological warfare. Admiral, I think we're approaching this wrong, Betty said. The Halaxians aren't demanding this because they want to change us. They're demanding it because they're afraid of us. Afraid? General Rogers looked skeptical. Their technology is more advanced than ours. Their warriors are physically stronger. But we're unpredictable to them, Betty explained. In their worldview, knowing who is a warrior and who isn't creates order and safety. Our system, where anyone might be a threat, terrifies them. Jack nodded slowly. She's right. Their entire society is based on clear roles. The worker caste builds things. The scientist caste studies things. The warrior caste fights. But humans adapt, Kate finished. Any one of us can fill multiple roles. Corporal Dan Williams spoke up from the end of the table. He had been introduced as a diplomatic aide, but he was actually a combat medic with extensive battlefield experience. Maybe we need to show them why our way works, Dan suggested. Instead of telling them, demonstrate it. Admiral Donovan looked thoughtful. Betty, you're our expert on alien psychology. What would make the biggest impact on the Halaxians? Betty thought, for a moment. They respect capability and efficiency. If we could show them that our integrated approach actually makes us more effective, not less, they might reconsider. And how do we do that? General Rogers asked. I have an idea, Betty said with a small smile. The next day, the Earth delegation returned to the Emperor's space station. They were escorted to the Grand Throne Room where Emperor Calthax waited with Grand Vizier Zorthak and Captain Dracor flanking him. Have you reached a decision? The Emperor asked. Admiral Donovan stepped forward. Yes, Your Majesty, but before we give our answer, we request permission to present information about Earth's military history. The Emperor waved a hand. Proceed. Lieutenant. Betty Chen stepped forward with a small device. When activated, it projected images into the air. Throughout Earth's history, Betty began, our most effective fighting forces weren't always the ones with the most obvious military appearance. The images showed historical photos, farmers who became revolution fighters, office workers who joined resistance movements, ordinary people who defended their homes. Humans learned that flexibility and adaptation were our greatest strengths. Betty continued. When everyone can potentially fight, everyone becomes more capable. The Emperor looked unimpressed. This seems inefficient and chaotic. May I show you something else? Betty asked. She changed the display to show a complex diagram. This is how specialized castes work. The diagram showed rigid boxes with single functions. And this is how Earth's integrated system works. This diagram showed overlapping circles with multiple connections. When disaster strikes, Betty explained, the specialized system breaks down if one caste is disabled. But in our system, others can fill the gap. Captain Dracor scoffed. Theory and images prove nothing. Just then, alarms began blaring throughout the station. A Halaxian officer rushed into the throne room. Your Majesty, a ship from the Crawl Collective has entered our space. They are demanding we turn over the humans to them. The Crawl were known as raiders and rivals to the Halaxian Empire. The Emperor's eyes blinked rapidly in concern. Secure the station. Deploy the warrior caste. As Halaxian warriors rushed to battle stations, Admiral Donovan stepped forward. Emperor Calthax, allow us to assist in your defense. The Emperor hesitated, then nodded. Very well. What happened next amazed the Halaxians. The Earth delegation transformed once again, but in ways the aliens hadn't expected. Jack Spencer immediately began coordinating defensive positions, working with Halaxian officers to optimize their deployment. Corporal Dan Williams, the quiet diplomatic aide, pulled a medical kit from his pocket and began setting up a treatment station. I'll handle any injuries, he said calmly. I'm a combat medic. Lieutenant Betty Chen interfaced with the station's communications system. I can jam their targeting frequencies, she told the Halaxian technicians. Let me show you how. Staff, Sergeant Nicole Peterson took position at a viewport with her compact rifle. I'll cover the main approach, she said simply. Even General Rogers and Admiral Donovan moved with purpose, not just giving orders but actively helping with defense. Preparations. The crawl ship approached the station and fired a warning shot. The station rocked slightly. In the chaos that followed, the humans worked seamlessly with the Halaxians. When a section of the station lost power, Jack quickly rerouted essential systems. When 3 Halaxian warriors were injured by a breaching attempt, Dan treated their wounds while continuing to relay tactical information. The most surprising moment came when a small crawl boarding craft managed to dock. 6 crawl fighters entered the station, heading toward the throne room. The Halaxian warriors moved to intercept them, but 2 crawl slipped past. They burst into the throne room, weapons raised. Before the Halaxian guards could react, Nicole fired 2 perfect shots, disabling the crawl weapons. Betty Chen, the cultural specialist, moved with surprising speed, using a simple restraint technique to subdue one raider. Corporal Dan tackled the other, efficiently pinning him down. The entire incident lasted less than 30 minutes. The crawl, facing unexpected resistance, retreated. In the aftermath, Emperor Calthax stared at the Earth delegation with new understanding. You knew the crawl were coming, he said slowly. This was your demonstration. Admiral Donovan nodded. We detected their ship on our long-range sensors yesterday. We could have warned you immediately, but you needed to see why our way works. Every human in this room served multiple functions during the crisis, General Rogers explained. Jack is a logistics expert who created an efficient defense plan. Dan is a diplomatic aide who saved Halaxian lives with his medical skills. Betty's cultural knowledge let her jam the crawl communications. We don't need separate castes, Kate said. We need versatile people who can adapt to any situation. The Emperor was silent for a long moment. Then he turned to Grand Vizier Zorthak. Revisi our assessment of human capabilities, he ordered. Their integration of military and civilian functions is not a weakness as we thought. It is a different kind of strength. Then you withdraw your ultimatum? Admiral Donovan asked. Emperor Calthax stood from his throne. Yes. Earth may join the Empire while maintaining its current social structure. Your adaptability is Impressive. And somewhat terrifying, Grand Vizier Zorthak added quietly. Later, as the Earth delegation prepared to return home, Jack found Zorthak watching him from the docking bay entrance. Something still troubles you? Jack asked. Yes, the Grand Vizier admitted. In our empire, we know our enemies by their appearance. Warrior castes are visible, expected. But humans, he gestured at Jack. Any one of you could be a deadly fighter. There is no way to know which humans we should fear. Jack smiled slightly. That's the point you're missing. If you're peaceful toward us, you don't need to fear any humans. If you threaten us, he shrugged, then perhaps you should fear all of us. Zorthak's eyes blinked rapidly. I will add that to my report. The Empire must never provoke Earth. Their deadliest soldiers look just like their civilians because their civilians are their soldiers. Not exactly, Jack corrected him. We're just people who do whatever needs to be done when the situation calls for it. Sometimes that means fighting. Usually it means building, creating, or healing. As the Earth ships departed, Admiral Donovan stood on the bridge of the Dauntless watching the Halaxian fleet grow smaller in the distance. Do you think they understand us now? She asked Jack. I think they respect us, he replied. Understanding might take longer. Their society has been divided into castes for thousands of years. The idea that anyone could be anything is foreign to them. General Rogers joined them at the viewport. The treaty's been signed. Earth is now officially part of the Empire, with our culture and systems intact. And the Empire has learned an important lesson, Kate said with a small smile. Never judge a species by appearances. Especially humans, Jack added. We're full of surprises.